In his book, What to Listen For in Music, Aaron Copland writes, "A beautiful melody, like a piece of music in its entirety, should be of satisfying proportion. When improvising through chord changes, there should be somewhat of a balancing act between playing melodic ideas along with through composed lines." In a previous lesson, I pointed out that playing melodically can be based on 4-note melodic cells, which are repeated and varied rhythmically. Now, if you haven't seen that lesson yet, then just click over here and check that out now. Now, when we talk about lines, these are usually longer in nature, and most of the time use constant structure rhythmic patterns such as 16s or 8s as a way to navigate through a 4 to 8 bar phrase. Now, lines can be either through composed, meaning that there's no repetition, as well as being pattern-based, based on building small ideas sequentially. Melodic sequencing is based on taking a short melodic phrase and then repeating the idea transposed over other chords. There's a cool way to do this over a single chord, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Now hang with me. So what I'm going to do is take a short phrase over a C minor 7th chord, which is based on using diatonic approach notes and chord tones. Now what I'm playing there is I'm playing a diatonic approach from above, which basically means it's a scale approach note. So using notes from the scale to approach chord tones. So the note that I'm using happens to be a chord tone as well, which is C, the root. That's approaching the flat 7. Okay, then what I do is go diatonic above the flat 3, going F to E flat. And then from there I'm going up to the 5th, so I go 6 to 5, so that's a diatonic approach from above into the 5th, which is A to G, and then I end it by using 2 chord tones, C and E flat, which is the root and the flat 3. So putting that together, now a lot of people think that this will be some type of scale referenced line, and it is to a degree. It's based on the C Dorian scale, but we're really thinking about the chord here. That's what makes understanding how to do these sequences so much easier, is when you start thinking about the chord that you're playing over, and also what other chords that I can superimpose over a C minor 7 that will still maintain those notes of the Dorian scale. So what happens here is, as I start to sequence this line down, I'm going to think of, well, what are the chords that would be based on the flat 7, the 5, and the 3 of the C Dorian scale. So if you went and harmonized the actual C Dorian scale, you'll find out that from the flat 7 is a flat 7 major 7 chord. So that would be based on B flat major 7. Okay? And the notes would be B flat, D, F, and A. And now I want to think of these as my 7, 5, my 3, and my root. Over the 5th is going to be a G minor 7 chord. So here, down from the 7, I've got the F, I've got the 5, which is D, I've got the flat 3, which is B flat, and then the root, which is G. And then when I go to the flat 3, coming back down, I'm going to the E flat major 7, which is from the flat 3 of the C minor 7. So I've got D, B flat, G, and E flat. So those, we're going to now think of these as chords that we're superimposing over the C minor 7, and then using the Dorian scale, we're going to use all those diatonic approach notes into the 7, the 3, the 5, and the root. That's, well, it doesn't do it in the root, it just goes root up to the 3rd at that last point. So we go back to our lick that we had in the over the C minor 7 chord. If I do that now over the B flat, I've got this. So note that I'm thinking about this as my diatonic approach into the 7, okay, then diatonic approach above the 3, diatonic approach above the 5, and then I'm going root 3. So even though this is all over one chord, which is C minor, I can have this same identical idea sequenced really accurately if I think about it in terms of superimposing these chords over C minor 7. So it's just a different way of thinking, and it's very cool, and it gives you kind of a more direct access to what you're doing with this. So if we then do the same thing over the G minor, I've got the diatonic approach above the 7, okay, the diatonic approach above the flat 3, diatonic approach above the 5, and then the root into 3. So it goes the root and then the flat 3. So note on this one, in difference, if you had the G minor 7 chord, note that when I had that C minor 7, it's the same chord tones, but because we're using the Dorian scale as our source material for all the diatonic approach notes, here, when I played the C minor, notice how I did a natural 6 to the 5 because that's in the scale. There's the Dorian scale. But when I do it over the chord superimposed over the 5th of that scale, I'm going to play this, which is the flat 6 into the 5, and then the root, and then the flat 3. So then going into the flat 3 major 7, which is the next chord, which is E flat major 7, I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got my diatonic approach above the 7. I've got the diatonic approach above the 3. I've got the diatonic approach above the 5, and then I've got the root and the 3. Now there's a little difference. You notice that when we had on the B flat major 7, those were the chord tones here, and then I played this. That was 4 going to 3. But when you do it over the E flat, it's going to be a sharp 4 to the 3 because this is the note that's diatonic to the C Dorian scale. So from here, notice sharp 4 to 3, then I go to the diatonic above to the 5th, then the root, and then the 3. And then when I then go to continue the line down, I go back to the C minor 7 here. And then I end this off with playing a cliche jazz lick, which has come to be known as the lick, which is... So, you know, any Adam Neely fans out there might kind of appreciate this because he's covered this quite a bit. But the idea is that it's just a nice, I still kind of like that lick, even though it's really cliche. And it's kind of a cool thing because, as you'll see later, it kind of serves to, when we use these melodic sequences, this is a way that we can kind of develop tension and release in our lines. And the great thing about that lick is it's so cliche and inside that it kind of really brings us to a nice resting place. So if I put the whole idea together slowly, it's going to go like this. How many times an idea sequence can vary from short to long? In this particular melodic sequence, it spans over 6 bars, but what I want you to do is experiment with both short sequence ideas and longer ones. Now go practice. What's great about melodic sequence patterns is they can really help to build excitement and create some tension and release in your lines. Notice how in this line, the melodic sequence creates tension followed by a sense of release when I resolve the line to the lick at the end. If you're interested in becoming a better improvising bass player and learning great musical contents from arpeggios to grooves, then subscribe to my channel now. If you liked this video today, then be sure to support my channel by giving it a big thumbs up. And if you really like this video, then please check out my books, my membership website, and my Skype lessons. Until next time, practice smart, work hard, and play creatively.